Hi, I'm Honney. I've been putting this one off. For a while. Just thinking about it makes me want to cry. You can probably tell that. But I wanted to do a vlog about my son Joshua. I'm going to try to get through it without losing it. Joshua was my first child. He was my only son. On May 2nd, 2013, so almost 2 years ago now, we found him passed away in his little studio apartment. For the last 6 months of his life, he had been in and out of the hospital. He'd spend a few days to a week, pretty much every month. They would stabilize him and send him home. Ultimately, the diabetes is what killed him. The reality is, he almost killed himself through diabetes. He would have been 24 this last January. He was 22 when he died. He always kind of resented being diabetic. He was diabetic since he was 18 months old. Took 6 months for them to figure out what was wrong with him. But he was diabetic his whole life. And it was better when I did all the things, when I measured everything and took care of his insulin. He had better care. He was always jealous of his sister's sugar treats, and they were ironically always jealous of his non-sugar treats, his sugar-free treats, and his extra jerkies and stuff like that. Isn't that human nature, though? We always want what we can't have or shouldn't have. Joshua was a beautiful, articulate, intelligent child. He spoke early. He was amazing. My mom likes to talk about how much potential he had. He also suffered greatly. We all lived a hard life. I told you guys I've lived a hell of a life. And I've lived through a lot of bad things. My ex-husband was incredibly abusive. You name it, he was abusive. Every possible way you could be, he was. And he was manipulative, and he was controlling, and he was cruel. We all suffered. We all suffered in our own ways. Joshua, also known as Soulit, that was his nickname, suffered in a unique way. On one hand, he was favored because he was the only boy. On the other hand, he was constantly put down. He preferred games and playing on the computer and trying to learn how to program to playing basketball or sports. And so he was always sort of put down for that. He was very gentle and very kind. He was almost afraid of his own shadow because he had been squashed and put down so much. But he was also incredibly kind and always willing to give of himself. He was afraid of being the monster that his father was, simply because he was his father's son and he was a man. And he pretty much gave up. We all tried to talk to him. We all tried to encourage him. And he did seem to finally start to look to a future. He had planned on going back to school. He loved to cook. He was proud of me. Shortly before he died, I declared streaming my job. And he thought that was so cool. And he thought it was so amazing that I had worked with Etho and Packrat and Seth Bling. Because those are people that he watched videos. Not because they were my friends or I knew them, but because he just liked them. You know, he just loved watching their videos. And the idea that his mom knew those people that he watched, that just made me the best. He would often come over and we would watch. He wanted to watch videos. He liked watching Terra Firma Crack. Season 1. And he would sit there and he wanted to watch them back to back to back to back. And he wanted me to be right there. And I'm watching them and I'm thinking, oh, you should have edited these better. And I'm thinking all the mistakes I made. And he was sitting there going, oh, Mom, you were great. That was great. Oh, I loved that. And he loved it. And he told me he was proud of me. And that meant so much. You know, people say all the time, it gets easier. It'll all be better. Just give it time. I haven't found it easier not to have my son. I will say it gets less hard. Less hard. His sisters and I were all very frustrated because we saw him deteriorating. And we were watching him die, and we knew we were watching him die. And we did what we could to help him, to get through to him, all in our various ways. I did get a chance before he died couple of weeks before he died. And a couple of months before he died. Because I did several times approach him and try to apologize for my part of his pain. Because I wasn't strong enough to get out. Because I didn't keep him safe like a mother should. I did my best. My best at the time was to survive and to try to run interference between my children and their father. When he went to jail and I was able to get a divorce, I kind of promised to spend the rest of my life trying to make up to my children. Make their lives better than they were. I didn't have much time to do that with Joshua. But I honestly think he held no malice towards me. That he forgave me. For those of you who've been around for a few years, you met him, whether it's just hearing his voice. I hadn't used the webcam then. Or playing a game with him. A few of you are even friends with him on Steam. He was very shy. He was very introverted. But when you got to know him and he opened up, he was so joyful and happy. Just to talk games with you. Just to hang out. When he passed away, some friends of mine started a fundraiser for his funeral. It turned into an international event amongst our little community. Mostly the Minecraft community. And that fundraiser ended up going for about 2 weeks. En masse. Started with an 18-hour stream. And then somebody kept it going. Help a Honney. And people from around the world paid for my son's funeral, his memorial, and for all the things that we needed, including just grabbing food on the way home, because the idea of cooking was not even crossing our mind. And I thank everyone for that. That peace of mind to realize that we went from contemplating getting out a credit card just to pay for his cremation, to being able to pay for everything that we needed. That was a great gift. So those of you who come to stream and you hear me talk about Joshua, or you ask about my kids, or you see the mom command and it says, had a son, Joshua Soulit, and lists their ages. And you apologize because you're afraid you've hurt me, or because You didn't know. Don't be sorry. I will always happily talk about Joshua. I will always love my son with my whole heart, and I will always miss him. And I will always be proud to have given birth to him. His name was Joshua. His nickname was Soulit. He was a quiet, geeky gamer kid. He always wore a hat. He walked everywhere. And if you didn't know him, you would have liked him.